everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about preference voting and how to use a preference schedule to summarize a preference vote. So the basic idea of preference voting is that whatever options you're voting between, the people who are voting are going to rank them in order from their first choice to their last choice. So over here on the right, we have a table that represents a preference vote where people voted between 4 different types of movies or genres of movies. And we can summarize this vote in a preference schedule by looking at which votes are the same. So if we look at these first 4 votes, those 4 people all voted in the exact same way. They voted for comedy as their first choice, Disney as their second, horror as their third, and romance as their fourth choice. And since there were 4 people who voted in that way, we're going to record that by writing a 4 above that column. And then we would say, okay, well, the next group of people voted for comedy, Disney, romance, and horror. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those people who voted in that way. So we would write a 10 in that box. And then for the next one, we would say there's 3 people who voted for comedy, horror, Disney, and then romance. And basically you would just continue on down until you've recorded all of the possible votes that everyone made in the preference vote. So that's how you make a preference schedule. And in this unit, we're going to be interpreting a lot of preference schedules. So you'll be given the preference schedule and then asked to answer questions about it or to determine the winner of the vote based on the preference schedule. So if we looked at this preference schedule here and we wanted to know how many people voted, the way that we would figure that out is we would just add up all of these numbers because each of the numbers represents the number of people that voted in the way that's described underneath. And if we add up all of those numbers, we get the number 23. And so that tells us that there's 23 people who voted. And in one of the lessons that we'll be doing, the requirement to determine the winner with this one particular method is that the winner has to have a majority of first place votes. So the way that you calculate a majority is you figure out half of the total. So in this case, we do 23 divided by 2, which equals 11.5. And the number of votes needed for a majority always has to be more than half. So the majority would be the number 12 because that's the number that's more than half of the total number of votes. And if your number was an even number, so like let's say there were 24 people instead of 23, well, in that case, your half amount would be 12. So your majority would have to be 13 because it always has to be more than half, not just exactly half. So that's how you can find the total number of people who voted as well as the majority. And then you can also look at other things, like, for example, how many people chose hiking as their first choice. So H stands for hiking in this preference schedule. If we wanted to do that, well, that's basically all of the votes that have hiking in the first choice box. And so to figure out the number of people who chose hiking as their first choice, you would just add these numbers together. And I believe that would give you the number 12 in this case. So that's how you can interpret preference schedules. And in this unit, we're going to be looking at 4 different methods to determine the winner of a preference vote. So we're going to be looking at the plurality method, the plurality with elimination method, the weighted count method, and the pairwise comparison method. So that's everything I wanted to talk about in this video, and I hope that that makes sense.